Welcome back, everybody, to our next deck list profile on Draw3 events. Today it is myself, Legit Vocals, followed with our other D3 member, D3 TanTan.
How's it going?
We are going to go over the list today the final list I played against Joey last week, which was going to be Green, Malim, and Friends. This list I got from TanTan. He was really the pioneer for most of the lists or most of the general ideas because he was the big slime fan. So I'll let him take away of his whole thought process on this deck before we get into card by card.
Yeah, so I've been having a lot of fun with this deck. I've been playing for a lot of our locals here recently, just trying out the new cards, seeing how it plays into a lot of the other decks that we're used to seeing pop up and have relevancy. This has been my favorite slime deck to play so far. I originally started with just the straight Malim deck, but kind of ended up on this one playing the Rimuru hybrid after wanting to have a little bit more stuff to do in the mid game, having a little bit more board presence in the middle of the game before we get to that big spot. So I kind of ended up trying out this hybrid, and I've been enjoying it a lot. We'll get into more of the specific cards and what feels like the most impact stuff and what I've been liking on that sense later, but overall the deck's been really fun to play more than anything else, which is huge for me. I always like to enjoy the decks that I play, and I've also been doing pretty well with it at locals. I've been going X1 at all of my locals here for the last few weeks with it, just kind of finding some hiccups at some point because it is just a high energy deck, but overall I've been pretty happy with the performance, getting X1 or betters at everything in the last few weeks since it came out.
Yeah, 100%. And when I played against Joey, it also felt very strong when you see the right sequence of pieces. Like I'm not mad at any card in this deck, and I'm not like, oh, this card needs to be taken out yet. But I haven't really been playtesting a whole bunch. I've been playtesting for Pomona, which is next weekend. But we'll get into the deck. We are on 11 zeros. It is going to be 2 of the zero drop Milim. It is going to be 2 of the zero drop Ramorous, which is a double gen if you pop it. 4 of the Draw Trash Rimuru, and then 3 of the Zero Drop Rammers that looks at the top 2 and lets you place any number on top. Place 1 Demon Lord into the trash and place the remaining cards. So you don't have to get rid of anything. Overall, I think the split's kind of nice because we do need Demon Lord names for some of our cards down below. The only thing I think does hurt a little bit is maybe, in my opinion, go 3-3, 3 Milim, 3 Rimuru on our splits, but overall, I think it's okay. Is there a reason why when you were making a tenor we wanted to play 11 zeros instead of maybe 12?
Yeah, it's definitely a very, very goofy split. The way that I kind of ended up on the split was I originally wanted 4 Rimurus because I wanted to make sure that I had the highest chances of having a raid target for when I drew the 5-drop Rimuru. Every time I see a 5-drop Rimuru, I want to actually be able to raid it. So I kind of just started on 4 of those, and I actually started on no Malim zero drops. It was just Ramirez zeros, but then just kind of tweaking the ratios of how many Malim raid targets I wanted to be playing. I ended up kind of just cutting down a few of those, being like, well, I don't really need as many of these non-trigger Ramirez zeros. I have enough doublers. I don't need those. Let's get some Malims in here. I was always on 11, though. That's kind of just my default when I start deck building, is I start with 11 zeros and 4 ones. If I end up with an extra space later in the deck, like if I just don't have enough cards I want to play, then I'll go up to the 12th as kind of like a luxury inclusion. I definitely don't think it's a bad idea, but especially for these big high energy decks that really want to be getting to 8 energy, 9 energy at times too. I think putting more emphasis on playing doublers in the deck rather than getting that 12th zero is something that I fall back on a lot. So just putting a higher priority on getting more doublers in the deck. Getting those luminous 5 costs that are 2 energy is something like if I played the 12th zero, it would be something like that has to go. But I want to make sure that I'm getting my curve, getting up to that 8 energy, because that's what I really need to do to even play the game.
100%. And then covering up the 4 1s that we are deciding to play is going to be the 4 1-drop Melems, which are look at the top 3 for a Demon Lord, and then trash. It is an active trigger. I like this card overall because in this deck where we're wanting to find our big drops, it technically finds every card in the deck, which is really what I like about some searchers. Is usually when you're looking at decks, the searchers either only search the raid or only search like maybe the babies or like your curve out piece. But like this one searcher literally says, "Hey, I can grab you any unit from your deck," and like overall the utility of that is just so good. And gets you. You need more energy, you can find energy. You need your raid, you can find your raid. Overall, I really like searchers that can literally search the whole deck instead of only being locked to like 1 or 2 cards.
Yeah, it really is just your best in slot 1-drop. It's everything you could ever ask for a 1-drop. It's a raid target. It searches for every single character in your deck, and it has a trigger, notably an active trigger as well, because without it, we would be very, very short on active triggers in a deck that needs to survive until high energy costs. So I
100%.
appreciate everything about it. We'll get to it later, but you have enough effects that let you like replay it, bounce it, replay it, kill it, replay it. So being able to do that on a raid body is just so important, because you get to search and dig for that raid, and then you can immediately go on top of it. Like if your 1-drop searcher was some other demon lord, like a carrion or something, it would be so much worse because you don't have that synergy. But so just everything you could ever ask for a 1-drop.
And then our color trigger, we are split 2-2. I have liked this color trigger. So the first color trigger we're playing is the 2-drop Malim, which is a 2-drop 4K. And then if it was not played by one of your abilities, it bounces at the end of your opponent's attack phase, which is like good. It's like a block. I've really liked it in like combination with our 3-drop Rimmer, which lets us like kind of free play it because then we just have an easy blocker to put on the board. But our other color trigger we are playing is the 6-2 Luminous, which she generates energy on the front line, and when played, you can add a card back from your side to your hand, or you can kill something on your field. If you do, then you get to play one with 4 or less from your sideline. So, like Tanner hinted at with the 1-drop searcher, you literally can kill the searcher and then just grab the searcher back and play it again. So you can just replay something that has like an on-play effect that you want. Or if you don't have something that you want to kill or loop, like maybe you just have a whole bunch of like the Ramorous or Melems that have no effects, then you can just go, cool, I'm just going to add back something from the trash. So next turn I could have something.
Yeah, it's also great to play out the 2-drop Malim. That along with the 3-drop Rimuru or the 5-drop Rimuru, you have enough effects to play out that 2-drop. So it feels like I get enough usage out of the 2-drop and getting to keep it on the board. It's kind of a tragedy that both the Malim and the Luminous are colors, because they just reading their text, they synergize together so well. Like it's a tragedy that they are competing for spots in the deck together, but that's one of the reasons why I gravitated towards wanting to try a split on them just from the get-go, is because the Luminous works so well with the Malim. And I was playing this split like this, even with just pure Malim before we had some of the Rimuru cheat out stuff, just because of that. But yeah, the Luminous is great for getting stuff back. The Malim is great if you really just need to block an attack or something. You can. I've never played it out and like knowing I had to bounce it back, but you can play it out and immediately raid on it. So it just helps your ratios of having Malim raid targets. You have a bunch of effects. You have 9 effects barring color triggers to play it out and keep it on the board. So I've been pretty happy with it.
9, yep, 9. Yep. Yeah, definitely. I'm happy with this color trigger split as well. Overall, I think it's very enjoyable. Speaking of something to bounce and do stuff, I guess let's get to all these free play effects real quick. So we have the 3-drop Rimuru, which also is treated as Rimuru, which is just funny because things that specify just Rimuru. But when played, you can pay an AP. If you do, you get to draw a card and then play a green character with 4 or less energy, 1 AP, set to resting, or perform raid with it. There's no, besides Ramorous, there's no raid that we're raiding with it. So most of the time we're just using it to free play these bodies like we've said before. It also does draw us a card, so it kind of gets to keep tempo in our hand. I think the worst thing about this card is it just doesn't have trigger, and it's also only a 2K. I wish it was like a 3K, but that's just being nitpicky on it. And
Yeah, the price you have to pay, because for me, that's almost an MVP card right there. I love that card. We can get into it a little bit more, but I think that Rimuru is amazing.
yeah, and then our other free player is going to be Rimuru, the raid. That this is what Tanner said. If he's on 5, especially if we're curving out with the other Rimuru, like we want to be raiding this because it lets us pick up a character from our field to our hand, and if we do, we then get to play a character with fulfilled energy and 1 AP from our hand onto our board or raid it. So this is just looping these little guys again, over and over again, which we'll get into like the exact cards we're over looping here again, because now you understand like why we're able to bounce, and we're talking about replaying all these cards and what's enabling it. Between the Luminous and both these Rimmerus, like we're going to be playing out bodies hopefully more than once, or just at least playing them out in sequence with another card.
Yeah, the I found a lot of usefulness with it, whether it's like on curve, just getting things. One useful thing that I found for it is if I use the 0-drop Ramirez to make it 2 energy, just raiding the Rimuru, pick up the Ramirez, put it right back down so I don't lose it at the end of the turn has been really nice. Moving things from the back line to the front line as like a pseudo like movement phase after my main phase. If I just need some bodies on the front line, it's been really good to just move something, or just getting any of those on plays again. 0-drop Rimuru, 0-drop Ramirez. Obviously, our Searcher Malim has been great. And the biggest one that I see for it is that 2-drop Malim.
Yes, this card I think is the MVP of this whole bouncing shenanigans.
Oh yeah,
So
it gets to benefit the most from it just because without when I'm just playing pure Malim, it is a one-time doubler that you play for 2 energy. You only get to have it double the turn it's played. But as soon as we start playing this bouncing package with the Rimuru, we get to do it every single turn. So we can reactivate it as a doubler, get our energy back up again, so it's not just kind of stuck as this single energy thing filling up a spot. It makes our turns feel a lot more fluid, a lot more consistent at staying at those high energy counts. Whereas without the bouncing package, it's like, okay, we get to the high energy for 1 turn, we do it, and then we kind of lose maybe 3 energy because we raided something. This Malim goes away. For whatever reason, we might lose some other energies that if we used a Ramirez to get up there, that's gone as well. So having this Rimuru package to turn these Malims into doublers again or save that Ramirez has been it's made the deck feel a lot more cohesive as I play out these mid games, with keeping my board at a decent width and also just making sure I can hit the energy breakpoints I need to be getting these impactful raids down that are gonna help me close out the game at the end.
Yeah, 100%. And the real reason why I really like this card is not only is it just a doubler, it is also something you can play in the front lines. To say we already have 8, we play to the front and makes us our energy, or say we have cards that we don't want to raid on because maybe it's all Rimmers in the back or something like that, and we just like, okay, well, I'm gonna raid on this medium anyway, so I'll just play in the front, make it generate. So having the option to also generate in the front line is very strong when we're being able to play it, because then you generate it, you do your value turn, and then next turn, if it didn't leave the board, you can bounce it, turn it into that double you need, or bounce it, make it produce on the front line again. For finals, I think this deck is fine because sometimes we want to do some of our 2 action point plays, and overall, when we're looking at how many 2 action point cards you have, usually like our rule of thumb, at least for like me and I know Ming, is each 2 action point card in your deck, you play at least 1 final. So we're kind of on 5, but we can't play 5 finals. So that's where we're at with that. We talked about the Rimuru. Now we have the Ramorous raid, which this is the one raid you could raid with the 3-drop Rimuru. And also is just kind of good, especially if you went turn 1, play 2-drop Ramorous, 0-drop Ramorous doubler, and then you can tap it, go to 2 energy, play one of your 2-drops if you feel like you need it just to curve out, and then you can raid this Ramorous because you're on 3 energy and draw a card right away, or you could final into playing Rimuru, tap an AP, raid the Ramorous on top of the Ramorous, so now you're really up. You went from turn 1 being on 1 energy into turn 2 being on 5, which is just crazy on a deck that's trying to get to 8 or more energy. Plus it draws you a card, replaces itself. And worst thing, if worst things come to worst, you can use the Rimuru, kind of like Tanner said, or we can like pick up something and then just play this as a doubler. It is still just a 3-drop. So then we still just we turned the single energy gen into a double. Overall, I think the card is good and has earned its spot. And then we talked about the 5-drop Rimuru. And now here's something that I don't see a lot of people playing. It could just be me, Tanner. I don't know how you feel about it. But we have 2 of the 5-drop Luminous 4K Steppers double gen active trigger as well.
Yeah, I don't see a lot of other people playing this card very much.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people are playing it. I kind of like it where it's at because like if we have a turn where like we don't want to put any of our big bombs up front and we don't have this Milim, we just like play it, and if our opponent removes it, they remove it. If they don't, well, we get to step it back, have 2 energy, and kind of go from there.
Yeah, and if we don't need to step it back for the energy, it is still a meaningful swing at that 4K benchmark. It's an active trigger that's obviously going to help us try to stay alive throughout the game. It's also great for these like waiting turns in the mid game because we're a very reactive deck, right? Just the effects on our Malim raids are very responsive in the same way that like Xenon is a very responsive deck, right? Any of the like heavy removal decks, you're usually really responsive, where you don't want to use all of your tools early. You kind of want to wait for your opponent to use them first, and then you respond by getting rid of theirs and then saying, "You got anything else?" So the Luminuses have been great for me for these like waiting turns, these like tempo turns where I'm kind of waiting for my opponent to commit to something, commit their resources. So being able to have these turns where I say, okay, I'm just going to put up these 4K bodies, I'm just going to get my board nice and wide, has been very, very helpful in that aspect, of not like I don't want to have these low impact raids with the Malims and just doing them to do them because it's like, well, I have nothing else to do. So Luminous has filled a great spot for that, where it's like I'm at least developing a 4K body, I'm developing a stepper, double energy that I can move back, whatever the next turn entails, whatever it requires of me, I can meet that requirement. If it requires me to step back with a Luminous to have the energy ready, I can do that. If it doesn't, I can put on the pressure with these 4K bodies while then also getting rid of 2 things off your board, right? With a 9-drop Malim, or even 3 if we have the amazing turn of an 8 and a 9 together.
Yeah, 100%. Then this is the next split we play. Like we split the color triggers. Now we're splitting our specials, and it's mostly because we have a NA exclusive promo card, which this was a 5/2 Malim, which she comes in active, and if we have 3 or more Demon Laid affinities with unique names, so in our deck it'd be Luminous, Malim, Rimuru, and Ramorous. So we have 4 different names you could possibly have, but as long as you have at least 3 of those, it generates energy on the front line, and then when played, it can't be sidelined or affected by BP reducibility till the start of your next turn, which means this card gets the free block, and we saw with Yellow Sakamoto, like that kind of ability is just very strong, especially when you're setting up for your next turn, just having a body going, hey, you're not going to remove this from my board.
Yeah, if we just need to stay alive for a turn, this is like a great card for that means. This is great alongside like those turns that I was kind of talking about. A lot of the times, if I can, it looks like me playing this Malim next to the Luminous and just saying, okay, cool. This thing is going to let me block an attack for free, and then here's another 4K body.
And then the last special is the old special, which kind of has 1 or 2 things. So as utility is you can either kill one of your opponent's sites, or it can kill a 3K. If you have Malim, it kills a 5K. Just a 3K, 5K special, but does have the added could kill a site if you didn't have a character you wanted to kill. So if your opponent went play something, play like turn 1, well, they went second, they went play, and then next turn they went play site as their doubler, and you go to your turn, you're like curved out, you're like, bro, I'll just blow up your double gen and make you try again.
Yeah, definitely very situational, the first use on it. I haven't used it yet for the first effect. Definitely depends on the meta, but otherwise it's still just a traditional vanilla 3/5 special or a high energy deck, so it costing 5 energy instead of 4 doesn't really matter at all for our deck. So just a standard special, with the slight caveat that sometimes you could kill a site with it.
Yep. And then we'll talk about the bombs of the deck. So we have the OG Millum, which I remember in JP when this first got one of the first ever prize cards. This card was still scary back then. And I think it does kind of deal with our opponents, like the kind of the meta right now. So when played, we get to choose one site and sideline it, and then she also gains snipe. Well, just killing a site, there is a couple decks in this format right now that do just play sites that generate 2 energy or even generate 1. So being able to take somebody off of energy and then giving this snipe, which means you're going to take a body off the board. And then when attacking, it is impact 1 or damage 3. So the turn you play it, you're snipe impacting something. And then if they don't answer it, every turn after that, you're just swinging damage 3 on a 5k body that is just terrifying to deal with.
Yeah, it's definitely very good, especially when they do have a site. You end up getting to get rid of 2 bodies off their board, one on front line, one on back line the turn it's played. Being a snipe impact gets around a lot of these protection effects that we've been seeing. They don't, against things like Yellow Sakamoto, their 2-drop Taro doesn't protect from snipe. Their 4-drop Taro does not protect from snipe on whatever character it chooses to protect, and you get to swing around that Taro from getting to like free block with it, to not die. So having just the snipe impact is, I think, pretty strong in this meta right now. Having removal in that way when we are seeing more of these protection effects come up and being prevalent is a good thing to have for sure on a card. Being a 5k stat line is really good on a card as well, because we're seeing a lot more of these 4k things. The scary part is going to be we keep seeing more and more of these effects that can't be blocked by 4k or more, so we do lose out a little bit on the value of being a 5k when those effects start to come up, but that's just kind of the circle that we go in.
100%.
And there's still enough 4k attacks. Yeah, snipe impact is still just the best combo you can ask for. And there are still enough 4k attacks that obviously you're going to start saving a lot of extra damage with these 5k blocks. So even if you have a slower early game, you can start to claw it back with that. And then especially when you get to combo this together with a 9-drop Malim, which I've noticed I can do a lot more in this hybrid build with the 5-drop Rimuru, essentially giving an extra AP. But getting to combo that 8-drop with the 9-drop Malim has just been absolutely huge for some of these turns here.
100%. And the 9-drop, so it's also a 5k. It can't be bounced to hand by you or your opponent's ability, so we don't get to abuse this card. And then when played, you choose one character in your opponent's front line, sideline it. If it's your turn, choose one character in your opponent's front line, return it to hand, and then give this character into your opponent's attack phase, derate it, essentially. And you can only activate this ability once each turn. So defensively, this is like Lancelot. Like, you rate it, you just get to kill one of your opponent's things. But then if it's your turn, you get to kill something and you get to bounce something. And then technically you derate. So that means you get your Malim fodder back the next turn. So you can probably rate another 9 or another 8 if you have it. I've really liked this card. I'm happy that its effect is only once per turn, because if not, Malim players could set up like 2 9-drops and they could kill 2 things, bounce 2 things, and you went from, I had a whole board to they paid 2 AP and my whole board disappeared.
Yeah, especially if they combo with an 8-drop, they say, get rid of everything on your front line, and now I swing a damage 3 when you have no blockers. That would be kind of insane. I mean, it is already kind of insane. If they get to combo something like playing the 9-drop to kill something, bounce something, and then playing an 8-drop to snipe impact something, just like those turns that I was mentioning where you get to play an 8 and a 9 together, and say, okay, I'm taking 3 things off your board. One of them is through an impact swing. And then you still follow it up with that 5k swing from the Malim 9-drop and that 4k swing from the Rimuru raid that helped us have enough action points to play all of these things. It's very brutal. You can definitely start to come back into these games very quickly. Something that I say a lot to Tyler and the other D3 guys when I'm talking about like strategy and how like to play out games is win board, win game. That's kind of like been my slogan the last few months here. And it definitely feels like when I play this Malim deck. I'm just accepting I will go down on life at some point. If I'm even on life when I start to raid, I am super happy because once I start to read these big things, it's win board, win game. I'll take 3 things off the board and then slowly swing this life back in my favor.
Yeah, I can 100% agree with that. I definitely think the more and more that keeps coming to UA, because our meta is no longer, it's like, hey, it's these 3 decks you have to play. A lot of decks are just getting agency through players, and we're just adding more and more IPs. And we're getting to a point where the game is just now tempo based. It is, did you keep a board? All right, well, then your opponent is like, you don't have to worry about rebuilding it. You just get to keep the pressure you already had from the previous turn. And just controlling the tempo and the pace of play through your means or your opponents is just so strong and very solid. Like, that's why, like, I leaned towards Yellow Sakamoto, thankfully, and Ming rolled it when we went to Florida. It's just like, I got to control the tempo through Snipe Impact, and then when I wasn't doing that, I'm turning 1 AP into multiple bodies, kind of like Tanner's doing with this Rimuru here. We're turning 1 AP into multiple bodies. We're turning... we can keep our bodies with like the 5-2 Malim, the new special. It's like, hey, I'm not going to lose my bodies this turn. So then next turn, I'm going to deal with your board, and then you have to deal with that board. And if you don't deal with that board, well, then I just get to keep the pressure, especially when you get to start keeping these 8-drop Malims on board and start just turning them sideways. Every turn after their first turn, they say kill a body, because the first turn, it's Snipe Impact kill a body. The next turn, it's swing damage 3. Nobody wants to take damage 3 willingly unless they're still at 7 life, but they're not at 7 life because they already took 1 from Milam. So if they're at 6 life and they take a damage 3 swing and they have nothing, well, now they're at 3 life, which is even worse.
Yeah, and most likely they can't even start with that because the turn you're playing that 8-drop, they're probably taking 2. So then it's at 5, and you really don't want to take a damage 3 when you're at 5, because once you're at 2, it's like, ooh, that's kill range right there. I am 1 9-drop away from losing this game on the spot. So you can definitely put a lot of pressure on them there and start to control and fight back the board. Yeah.
100%. And I think, like, one thing that I've done, like, playtesting this deck, and, like, this is, and Tanner is completely right. With this deck, going to 3 life or less is not good. Against one of the opponents when I was playtesting it, I got to go Draco Nova as our one of, kill a body into 9-drop, bounce kill a body into 8-drop Snipe Impact. So I literally got to take all 4 of their bodies off the board for 3 AP, and my opponent was like, what do I do against that? And I go, nothing. You die.
you just need. Yeah, that's how I won my finals of locals this week. Actually, was on the last turn. I believe I went. I didn't use the Dragon Nova. What I did on my last turn was I played a raid target. I played 9-drop Malim, kill something, bounce something. This is against Shadow Army. Then I played 8-drop Malim, kill a site. No, I don't think he had a site out, but 8-drop Malim for snipe, and then Rimuru bounce something, play another 8-drop Malim. So similarly, I took all 4 bodies off the front line, the last 2 being snipe impacts, so I still got those swings through, and then swung with a Rimuru and a Malim to end the game, so killing from 4 life to 0. So those even, so 3 is scary, and we can even get there from 4, whether with like the Dragonova 8-drop 9-drop lines or like the super niche double 8-9 lines. It's definitely
it's definitely terrifying. And overall, I'm happy with where this deck is currently. If we make some changes now, like 100 Girlfriends is here, which the green deck says it can't be blocked by energy 4 or higher, so it's like we would only be able to block with like our little double or energy gens. So there's things to be considered there, because that changes it. It's not just 4K anymore. Now it's 4 energy or more. Plus they can like bounce our own things, so that can kind of like kill our little bounce engine if they're removing our board as well. Especially if we play like our special Malim, we're like, hey, you can't sideline this or BP reduce, and they go, cool, I'll put it back in your hand. You're like, what? That sucks. that was
I definitely think there's some specific effects and mechanics in the game that counter this deck pretty hard. Thankfully, the meta is super wide that even with like 100 Girlfriends, you'd probably have to get unlucky to hit multiple of them in a single day. That is kind of the beauty of it, at least, that even though there are some of these like landmine effects and decks that Malim has a pretty rough time into, you still just can get there. Like I'd say even Shadow Army is on paper can be a difficult matchup just because they do easily have that swing under, and we want to just be getting to a board that's 4 and 5Ks. So if they get their Kaisel out and just start swinging under, if they get a bunch of buffs out, if they get their sights out without us being able to get rid of it, they can just swing over 5. So we don't get the free blocks onto like Igris's, or they just swing under our 5 or 4K blockers. Stuff like that. I think Kenshin, like pushing back stuff could be difficult. And yeah, these like bouncing effects could be annoying as well for us. But thankfully, they're kind of niche enough, and UA is just such a wide meta that we still can just try to get there regardless. And just say, hopefully I don't hit any of these landmine decks for me. Yeah, and even if I do, it's still Union Arena, right? So there's still enough. Like every game is different. Every game you're seeing different pieces. So even if you hit those decks, they got to have it, right? They still have to find it. Like I got fortunate in my last game against Shadow Army. He didn't find a Kaisel early, and he didn't find a special super early. So it gave me the opening to try to not lose early and have that 4 life turn. So regardless, even if you hit these landmine decks, we can still kind of get there.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Like I said, like I think UA is now in a good spot where it's like there's so much just getting added to the meta. There's not things that are like, hey, I am the meta. And I think that's very good for our game. But all right, that has been the green Milam and Friends deck that we played against Joey the previous week. Next week, we might do some deck lists for 100 Girlfriends since the set will be legal for Pomona, for Cali, which I know myself and some other D3 members will be there. It'll be interesting. It is a 2-colored set, so it'll be interesting to see if there's anything that we think will be top tables there. But overall, I'm excited. It's going to be the last Wave 1 regional. So it's good to see who's all going to be there and what decks end up taking it. But all right, this is Legit Vocals and D3 TanTan signing out. You guys have a wonderful day.